Hey there, everyone, and thanks for tuning into episode 82 of the Eyes Free Sports podcast. My name is Greg Lindberg. Here on episode 82 of Eyes Free Sports, we are chatting about a super cool technology that is enabling blind and visually impaired sports fans to enjoy the action a little more independently and actually get a lot more feedback and information about what's going on when they attend live sporting events. And so we are hopping across the pond to chat with a gentleman from Dublin, Ireland, who is part of this really unique startup company. So let's dive right now into episode 82. All right, so my guest here on this episode of Eyes Free Sports is Omar Salem. And Omar is one of the co-founders of Field of Vision, which has developed a super cool technology for blind sports fans. Omar, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me on today, Greg. Looking forward to speaking with you.
Definitely, yeah. And like I told you kind of before we got rolling here, I'm just so fascinated by this technology. I'm a lifelong, sports fan myself. And as my vision has changed over time, obviously, being able to participate in the fan experience, has become more challenging. So something like this technology that you guys have created is just so exciting.
Glad to hear that. It's comments like that keep us going and prevent us from calling it a day when things may not go right. But yeah, fantastic to hear that. What sports do you follow most yourself?
Definitely American football is my big one, but also big baseball fan as well. Actually, even bowling. I used to bowl in a league for a long time, and have actually followed pro bowling now for quite a while. So that's kind of one of the lesser, popular ones as far as fandom, but definitely just in general love sports.
Likewise.
Sure. So just to kind of start things off here, let's just talk about kind of the backgrounds of the three of you. I know it's yourself and two other gentlemen that are behind this company, Field of Vision.
Yeah, so the three of us, myself, Omar, Tim Farrelly and David Denneher, we grew up together. We didn't grow up together. Went to school together, high school together in North Dublin in Ireland. Good friends, all somewhat interested in technology and engineering, so forth. And when we were about 16 or 17 years old, we entered a kind of an international science and engineering competition together called F1 in Schools, where the task was to kind of create a mini Formula One team, build small CO2 powered car, and build kind of a brand and a company around that as well, race sponsorship. We were fortunate enough to win in that competition in the Irish final of it, and then travel to Singapore together as a team to compete in the World Finals, where we did quite well for ourselves there as well. And that was a fantastic kind of life-defining experience, so to speak, as a 16, 17-year-olds raising about 30 grand to travel to the other side of the world and race a small car that we built. After that, we, each graduated high school, went off to different universities. I myself actually went up north to Belfast to study aerospace engineering. Lost contact slightly, I'd say, then probably a year later, I guess, when COVID-19 started hitting and, we're all in lockdowns and sent back home, I came across videos online of visually impaired sports fans, soccer fans specifically, watching games with a friend or family member in the stadium, and a friend or family member would just be narrating the game to them, tracing the ball position on the palm of their hand, or in some cases creating some kind of mini model of the pitch and the players on the kitchen table and explaining them how this is going. I thought, okay, interesting. I wonder, could some technology solution be possible in order to do that? So I started messing around with some materials at home. I had a 3D printer at home and some spare, Arduinos and parts, and then messaged Tim and David and said, hey guys, are you free? Do you want to do another fun project together again? And so we'll see where we go with it.
Wow, very interesting. So it was just kind of by happenstance, like you said, seeing some videos of blind fans, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Personally, none of us have any connection at all to anyone in the blind or vision impaired community. I wouldn't even say before I started this that I've ever spoken to one. And I would go further to admit my ignorance. I didn't even realize that blind or visually impaired people even watch sports or could engage in that whole kind of thing. But just something about it just really struck me, and I thought, wow, okay, blind people do really enjoy sports. I'm ignorant. Let me inform myself, speak to a load of blind fans or blind sports enjoyers online, and find a few connections on the phone call as well. Ask them about their problems, what could be better in terms of enjoying sports, and we started, kind of from there, I guess.
Sure. And kind of on that note, I did want to mention two statistics I found on your website, the Field of Vision website, that really kind of struck me. And one of them is that 15% of blind and visually impaired individuals attend sporting events, only 15%, whereas 71% actually engage with sports on TV or radio. Any thoughts on those numbers, just in general?
Yeah, I mean, well, the numbers don't lie. Quite frankly, I think a cooler statistic also, and I think the two come hand in hand, is that in the United Kingdom, 43% of blind people identify as soccer fans or football fans specifically, and that's compared to 47% of the general population. So it's a really negligible difference. There are so many visually impaired people who enjoy sports for the exact same reasons everyone does, and when they go to a stadium, the experience can be limited at best. I would argue, whether that be listening to audio descriptive commentary, or just having a friend or family member narrate it, or just listening to kind of the public radio broadcast. We've spoken to fans and they tell us that, and I'm sure you can speak for yourself, that the experience just isn't as engaging, thrilling, immersive as it could be.
Exactly. No doubt about that. They do their best, but, whether it's, like you said, listening to a commentator or just a friend or family member sitting next to you, you still don't quite get that full, detailed, immersive experience.
Absolutely.
So in terms of the technology, let's talk about the specific device that you guys have developed. And if you just want to explain maybe kind of what went into making this device and just how it works, and just in general, give us an overview.
So the aim of the technology we're developing is to replicate the visual experience of, well, we're starting out with soccer. I'll preface, but it could be applied to other sports. Anyway, the objective is to replicate the visual experience of a sports game through touch and feeling. So there's a few ways we do that. The device itself is probably the size of a small laptop or an iPad, slightly thicker. It has kind of the engravings of the sports field on the top of it, and also a ring-shaped magnetic ball, which the user can place their finger on and feel exactly where the ball is in real time in the pitch. They can feel the player running down the wing, the swerve of a pass, the power of a free kick. And then the cool part is there's different levels of haptic feedback, different vibrations, which enable users to feel which team has possession, if a player has received it, if a player has passed it, if a player is moving with the ball, and most important, obviously, if there's a goal or not. I started developing them about 2 years ago in university, while we're all in university / at home. And we are now just coming up to the stage where we're producing 10 to 15 of them this month for use in live games.
Wow, that's amazing. So just a little more on the actual device. So I know you mentioned kind of the haptic feedback. So can you kind of give some examples of, if a goal is scored, what does the person, do they actually feel something? Do they hear something? How does that work?
So we focus on the vibrations, on the touch itself. We don't communicate sound at the moment, although we can communicate any radio broadcast that is kind of in the stadium or on the internet. In terms of different vibrations, it would be every time a player on, let's just say the home team, will kick the ball, the top surface of the device will vibrate, which would be where your hand with the kind of moving magnet is. That will vibrate, at a certain frequency, maybe like a single pulse. And if the same player passes, or does the opposite, so passes single pulse. If it's a receive, it's double pulse. And then on the opposite team, say the opposition intercepts it or gets the ball, it will then be the bottom part of the device that's vibrating. So without being told, you can, while watching a game, you can know exactly if a pass is being made by a certain team. Is a player on the same team going to receive it, or is the player on the opposition going to receive it? And so on and so forth. As the play progresses, then when there's a goal, you'll feel the ball going through the lines. You'll feel it hitting the back of the net as the ball moves into the goal, and then there'll just be a stronger vibration, I guess, to signify that also, which is a bit fun.
Wow, that's amazing. And I guess I do kind of think of like, Braille individuals who are blind or visually impaired being able to communicate, without spoken word, kind of that private communication. And in this case, I feel like it's kind of similar, being able to privately consume the information, like you said, without having to rely on others.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one of the key features for us, or the key benefits for us, is that not having to rely on someone else. And I think with sports in general, you don't have to watch a match to know the score. You can look that up on your phone afterwards. It's about the journey.
Sure.
How your team won, right? Or if you're talking about a goal, someone could tell you there was a goal. Someone could tell you player A received a pass from player B, and player C then sends it across the field to player D, and then a player on the other team tackle them. But they're all end destinations, I guess you could say. It's the journey that matters, and feeling that journey yourself rather than having it explained to you, even if it's probably too difficult to explain the journey anyway. Feeling the ball moving yourself, feeling it going to the back of yourself, the back of the net itself, to go inside the left post, the right post, right down the middle. How far was the shot taken from? You could be told all these things, or you can be shown all those things, and I think that's the key thing for us that we're trying to get in. We're really excited to get it unrolled across the UK first, and then further afield also.
Right, right. And then is it a camera, or how does the device actually, track or know what's going on the field?
Yeah, so we've got two methods to do that. The first, I guess, the main solution really is the camera solution. So Tim, smart guy, has developed kind of an in-house computer vision model. I don't want to go on record and say it's the fastest of its type, but it is certainly up there, and it may well be the fastest of its type in terms of how quickly it can process. It can see the ball on the field and process its location within half a second, and then relay that back to the device itself. So we install a camera, one in each corner of a stadium. So 4 cameras in total. They're kind of small, like CCTV cameras. They have the computer processing the information on edge on the camera itself, which means that the data being kind of broadcast online is extremely low bandwidth, low quantity, and no footage is being left from the stadium either, which is quite important for rights holders and broadcasters. So yeah, it's cameras. They track the ball. It's sent to the device along with possession and the other key things within half a second into the user's lap or hand. We also, if we want to do a demo at a certain stadium, we can also track the ball manually. So a sighted individual can sit in the commentary box and manually track all the game information using a mouse or a joystick. And it can be done that way as a temporary solution also.
Right. And I was going to also ask, kind of on that note, as a fan, would I have to be sitting in a certain part of the stadium for the cameras to effectively capture this information, or can you pretty much be anywhere?
Yeah, you can pretty much be anywhere. That would usually depend on the stadium operations themselves. The device itself is small, wireless, portable. As long as there's an appropriate, internet signal at whatever part of the stadium, you can sit anywhere, which I think is an important thing personally. And I think a lot of stadiums are catching on to this truth as well, is that a designated kind of disability area in any stadium is proven quite unpopular, as you could probably understand. And a lot of stadiums now on our side of the pond at least, are doing their best to make sure that the entire stadium is accessible to everyone, whether that be wheelchair users, visually impaired individuals, hearing impaired individuals. So we want to be right on that wavelength also.
Sure. Very interesting. And then you did say something about as far as the radio broadcasts, so fans can also listen to the radio broadcasts on this?
Yeah, so that's something somewhat is still in development, but it depends if something's being broadcast on FM or internet radio. In Europe in Europe, I guess, we do an extremely good job of audio descriptive commentary. Is that something developed in in the US?
Yeah, there definitely are some organizations out there. It's still kind of a growing thing, but it's, yeah, kind of that, in addition to obviously the traditional play-by-play, on a radio station or whatnot, having audio describers in the stadium describing more detail to fans as well.
Mm. Yeah, so we've had that for I'd say the best part of 30 years now
Hmm.
in Europe. There's some quite fun videos if you look back on YouTube of kind of stadiums in Scotland using it 30, 40 years ago, and they'd get kind of a female commentator every so often just as a treat and funny
Right.
things like that. So yeah, no,
Wow.
it's a fantastic service. In most stadiums here, and our idea is to be, not to replace that whatsoever, but to, be completely in tune with it. So we can, in future versions of the product, there will be FM receivers on the device itself, so that you can just plug straight in and listen to the audio broadcast and the haptic feedback as well. What we can do at the moment is, if any commentary is being broadcast on the internet, we can tune into that. Although usually there is a slight latency delay with that due to it being on internet rather than direct FM broadcast.
Right, right. Gotcha. I'm also curious as far as, identifying, say, players on the field by number or statistics, or is there any kind of anything that you guys have talked about or are working on to kind of communicate a little even further information about the event, the players, whatnot?
Great question. So those things are expected to be covered by commentary. Some of those kind of less immediate things, who has the ball, what number shirt they are, statistics and things like that. The commentator usually does narrate, and as a commentator would narrate, player X has the ball and it's passed to player Y. Okay, you know that, but you want to see that, so that's what the haptics do. Nonetheless, though, stats is an interesting one. You might want to know the score immediately, or how much time is left, or how many shots have been made on each side. We've had some good suggestions on adding some kind of audio feedback as well. Just, talk back saying that, or some kind of refreshable braille display in the corner of the device as well. Neither of those have been developed yet, and I guess we'll have to see with more fans how much of demand there is for those two things.
Right, right. Interesting. And I know a big question a lot of folks are going to have, obviously you mentioned soccer is kind of the first sport you guys are starting with, with this technology. In general, just any other sports that you're looking at. And also I'm curious about, sports for the blind, whether it's goalball, beat baseball, potentially applying this technology to those sports as well.
So football is a primary focus, and our other focus is, funnily enough, Australian rules football, or Aussie rules. We had a very successful demo actually in Melbourne last year with the Australian Football League and the telecom company Telstra, and we released a great video as a result of that demo. So we did have to change our devices so that they could work for Australian football. And I think as a result of that, we've actually future-proofed our future device, our present devices, so that they are much easier to interchange between sports. The top surface, which has the kind of engraved lines of the pitch lines, can now be changed quite easily to any sport. And our computer vision model is we're adapting it so that it can work on different types of balls, also, be it rugby balls, American footballs, Australian footballs, soccer balls, whatever. So there are two main sports for now. I guess how we expect to go kind of further down the line is deepen our roots in those two sports, and then see what the demand is for other sports. But we're definitely looking at them. And probably the most important thing for us as well is to eventually get some kind of home-based device where users can use it at home as opposed to in the stadium. And that would, of course, have to be adaptable to as many sports as possible. And you tell me, Greg, what's the viewership like for goalball and beat baseball and more adapted sports such as that?
Yeah, I mean, certainly, obviously with streaming, a lot of the matches and games, of that sort are definitely streamed online. And hey, I'd love to at least see, the technology kind of tested out on, say, an adaptive sport like that. I think especially like with say goalball, probably the most well-known sport
Mm.
for the blind. Like you said, kind of putting something in that ball or somehow having that ball communicate information from where the ball actually is on the court would be fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a blind football coach myself here in Dublin. Although I'd say adaptive sports in Ireland are generally slightly underdeveloped, especially compared to the crazy thing you guys have got in the States. One one fun thought that I've spoken with coaches is actually using it. Both goalball players, and blind soccer coaches is the thought of using it actually for competitive instruction, whereas you can actually use their devices in a tactical way, kind of at that, the timeouts or the half times or the pre-game talks, if as an effective way to communicate player positions, ball positions, by the coach to the players themselves, but before they go out and then execute those orders, which would be quite a cool thing if we were to get to that stage, although we're not there yet. And in terms of fans viewing it, there's no obstacle there. Just a matter of time and getting to that, and getting into the stadium, sticking cameras into stadiums, and getting them rolling.
Right, right. So if a sports fan were to walk into a stadium, any kind of venue, whatever the sport is, and they wanted access to this technology, how could they actually get it?
Time travel about a year or two into the future, and then you're good to go.
Gotcha.
We're still kind of at a early pilot phase slash development stage. We have the hopefully in Australia this in the next year or two, kind of rolled out fully, although I can't speak too much about that. And then in stadiums in the Ireland and the UK this year for sure. And when we get to your side of the pond, hopefully in the next year or two. And I'm sure when stadiums are using this technology, they will advertise it, and we'll advertise it also. So all I can say at this stage is stay tuned.
Sure, gotcha. And I assume once the devices are more available, like you're saying, if you just talk to somebody within the stadium, I assume they would kind of know where to direct that person to get that technology, and it would be free for them to use, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the aim. No stadium should be charging extra for the service, and we take issue with that. Quite frankly, when someone purchases a ticket, they should expect as an immersive and high quality experience as possible. And we're just facilitating stadiums to provide that to a specific demographic.
Right, exactly. So I know you have mentioned you have done some testing, whatnot, and I'm just curious some of the feedback that you've gotten thus far from some of the users.
I think the feedback's in two groups. The positive feedback, which is the really encouraging types of feedback, and also the oh damn, why didn't we think of that type of feedback? Not quite sure which one's more useful, but they're both great. In terms of the first kind, yeah, it's really encouraging when you get someone using it and they can feel what's going on and really enjoy it. We had one lady in Melbourne in Australia using it, lifelong Australian football fan, and she was for the first time in her life able to kind of, I guess, call a goal or predict that there was going to be a goal before she heard the crowd roar, which is, which she would be somewhat relying on. That was just a massive feeling for her. And, she expressed that well. She also said that, with enough practice, she'd be able to commentate the game herself. So, really, really great kind of snippets like that. And in terms of, using it with fans, that's the best way you're going to learn new things. I think one of the best pieces of kind of feedback we got was to actually color in the pitch lines themselves. They used to, the device itself is white, and we used to have the device itself white, and then the pitch lines also white, but just being able to feel them, because they're debossed in. And then one fan said, okay, well, I've got a limited amount of sight. I wouldn't mind if I could actually see the ball respective to the pitch lines also, because I definitely can't see onto the field itself because it's too far away, but I totally can see the device itself. So if you can color in the pitch lines, I'll be able to actually see the ball where it is as well as feel it. So that was a great bit of advice that we implemented, and it's been popular since.
Sure. Interesting. And then just to wrap up here, if individuals out there are interested in learning more, I know you do have a website if you want to mention that. Anything else on YouTube or social media as well?
Yeah, I'd say just check out www.fov.ie. That's the best place to go for the time being, and you should see the links to different places out there. If you're somewhat interested or want to know more, I would ask that you press the get in touch button on the website and give us a bell, because we'll be really interested to hear from you.
Awesome. Very cool. Alrighty. Well, again, we've been chatting with Omar Salem from Field of Vision. And first off, Omar, really appreciate you taking the time to chat here. And again, I'm just so intrigued, so fascinated by this technology, and certainly look forward to following your progress as a company.
Pleasure, Greg. Cheers. Thanks for having me on board.
Absolutely. Be sure to follow the Eyes Free Sports podcast at facebook.com/eyesfreesports and on Twitter @eyesfreesports.